camps outside the Dedham courthouse. Supporters of Karen Reed in pink, supporters of victim Boston police officer John O'Keefe in blue. Reed and her attorneys returning to court to argue that 2 of the 3 charges against her should be dismissed.
We have hard evidence that they reached a decision.
The defense says 4 jurors report the group agreed Reed was not guilty of second-degree murder and leaving the scene of the accident, but were deadlocked on manslaughter. Now Reed's attorneys are asking the judge to bring jurors back for polling.
Oh my God!
Order a hearing, Judge. Don't make Miss Reed be the first person in the history of the Commonwealth to face re-prosecution for murder by the same prosecutor's office that tried her once and failed to persuade the jury she was guilty.
During the trial, the jury did not indicate a partial verdict, telling the judge they were hopelessly deadlocked. During the trial, the jury did not indicate a partial verdict, telling the judge they were hopelessly deadlocked.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay. How is everybody? Karen Reed had a hearing yesterday where her defense tried to totally get rid of the entire case based on these jury communications they've had. Very interesting part of the arguments is when Lally brought up the point that neither the defense nor the prosecution, which is why the prosecution didn't answer these communications from these jurors, should be having any. So Lally argued that neither side should be having any discussion about how they deliberated. But you can see by the opening that I had, they felt they weren't unanimous in any of the 3 charges against Karen Reed, and thus it was deadlocked. But why are these jurors pushing so hard to get Karen Reed acquitted, essentially, get rid of the case, the strongest, 2 of the strongest charges against her, certainly murder 2 being the strongest? And I think it's really just a publicity stunt by the defense. And what I'm thinking about, and I think it's the logical way to go, was there juror tampering in this case? And we'll never know. I mean, we can only imagine. And there's been witness intimidation. There's been violations, in my opinion, of the code of conduct of defense lawyers, where they're giving Aidan Carney information and having it leaked, and then referring to their own the items that they leaked in their own motions. So I don't think it's too far out to wonder about if there were some free Karen Readers on this jury. Because any other place without this innocence fraud campaign, this is an open and shut case. It's an easy case. Without the actual campaign, I don't think any jury would have trouble coming to a verdict on this. But because what we've had a very well-moneyed innocence fraud campaign, And it's working. It's putting doubt that they may ever get a verdict, and the state is pushing hard to retry. I don't think there's a chance in heck that Judge Canone is going to set precedents in Massachusetts with this case. And it was very interesting when Karen Reed's new lawyer, Weinberg, is that correct? Do I have his name correct? I hope so. Said that they want to bring in 4 jurors and poll them. They just want to poll the 4 jurors that have talked to the defense. No one else. Leave everyone else out. Not bring all 12 in. Bring 4 of them in. And even if you bring all 12 of them in, and I'm not going to agree that they're to anything that has been leaked in this case as fact. But even if you bring 12 of them in and have them testify under oath as to what happened, you're all looking in retrospect and in memory. And I just had the experience of being a juror, and we had one charge to decide on. And it wasn't very long deliberations. The first vote was 11-1 guilty. So, but we were very concerned that we were filling out the forms right, doing everything by the letter. I would think in such a high profile case as Karen Reed, that they all worked really hard to understand that there wasn't something they understood that they could ask the judge. They certainly had multiple communications with the judge during their deliberations about the verdict forms, and they were simplified to the defense's specifications, if anybody remembers. And the defense did not poll the jurors at the time. So that, I think it's an issue that's come and gone. But let's look at some of the media that came out of that hearing. I thought what was most interesting about it is that there was a big turnout for John O'Keefe and the Karen is guilty side, the non-supporter side. And that would put pressure even more on Karen Reed to try to get this dismissed, because let's look at the facts. The facts are, statistically, you are at a disadvantage when you've had a hung jury. It seems like an advantage, like, well, we did convince some people to hold out the first time around, but statistically, you're more likely to get convicted second time around. And secondly, the non-supporter side has decided that if this is going to be played in the court of public opinion, that they can't trust that this is going to go on correctly in the court of public opinion anymore. They're pushing to show up and represent in front of the courthouse, just as the Free Karen Readers did. So that's not good, because let's just take a look at how Karen Reed came into court. A large and vocal crowd is the way they described it, WCVB Boston. This is their video from X. Let's take a look.
Come on, keep it moving. Faster. Come on. Come on. Come on, get out. Keep going. We love you, Karen.
Right. So seems like the usual fare, right? We love you, Karen. We love you, Karen. People are bringing their children to this, which I think, as someone who was raised by activists and always had a sign being put in my hand as a child, I don't think is healthy. Let your children have their own opinions. Don't bring them to, get a babysitter. Don't bring them to these events and put adult politics essentially in their head, because this is political. It is a true crime story, but it is political, and it will help. And what it does is form their outlook and And I think you're forming a very conspiratorial outlook in a child's mind. Also, you're also putting them in a crowd of riled up strangers. Pom-poms. I mean, she's being treated like a celebrity. Like this is some kind of achievement. Being accused. She's an accused murderer. And they've been having these kind of supporting events. They're really trying to rile up the Free Karen Read movement ahead of the trial in January because they need it. They cannot win in court alone with the evidence alone. They have to use the innocence fraud campaign to put pressure on the courts. That is what it is all about. And now there was news also that 20 of the cases that Proctor was involved in are going to be relooked at. So now Proctor, any case that Proctor is involved in because he wrote some mean texts about Karen Read, enraged at the time as anyone would be, looking at the facts of this case, she just told 1 million people, I did it, I hit him. And there's her taillight all over the lawn. So he writes some mean text. Every case that he's been involved in is going to be relooked at it for some kind of corruption. And this is very common in innocence fraud cases. So it's called a pattern pattern and practice done by these. So now Proctor, who did nothing wrong, has a pattern and practice of corruption in cases and bias towards defendants. Give me a break. So they're looking to unravel some convictions using this case. This is exactly how it works. This has been going on for years and years and years and years and years, especially in Chicago. And the better you are at your job, the more you are a target, because the more people you've arrested that have led to convictions that puts a target on your back, the more they want to take you down as some kind of cop that might plant evidence, coerce a confession. Now we just have this vague corruption, thanks also to the media joining in. So let's take a look when she turns. So we have the pom-poms. She's being treated as a celebrity. Let's take a look when she turns the corner. Things change quite drastically. You guys hear that? Cop killer, cop killer. Karen Read can't, look at her striding up those stairs, can't get into the courthouse fast enough. Oh, she's now Princess Diana. She's now royalty, waving at her subjects. Unreal. But I thought that was pretty interesting. But let's look at some of the arguments made about made in court, shall we? Here's WCVB in Boston again.
Asking the court not to closing the door to this new evidence and really adopting a fiction that the impasse was on all three counts when we now know that there's strong corroborated, trustworthy evidence it was not, to establish a procedure.
corroborated, trustworthy evidence. Unlike the rest of the evidence for Karen Reed's quote-unquote innocence.
Consistent with McCabe, consistent with Sanny, consistent with the Supreme Court decision in Renner. And take those cases where jurors do come in after the fact, when there's credible, responsible evidence that they were either biased or that they had some extrinsic evidence, whether from the internet or from an improper contact with a third party, and help us investigate this. I don't believe that if the Norfolk DA was convinced from that process, and it could be 4 jurors, it could be 12, but if all of them tell the court, we made a final decision, we never went back, like the Lufford case, or to re-examine it, it was not an intermediate decision, it was a final decision. All of our impasse was about Couture and the multiple lesser includeds. I am hopeful that the prosecution would join with us in not seeking a new trial if they were convinced by these jurors under oath to what they've not yet been convinced by, which is defense counsel. This was a hard-fought case, and I'm not being critical of the DA, but I've done this for a long time, and I believe in our system of justice. People say it's not perfect, but it's the best that the world has. This to me is hallowed ground in a courthouse named after someone who was a friend who I deeply respected. And I want the prosecutor to get the facts in the best way we can at this point in the case, which is through your honor. Order a hearing, Judge. Don't make Miss Reed be the first person in the history of the Commonwealth to face re-prosecution for murder by the same prosecutor's office that tried her once and failed to persuade the jury she was guilty. They've not given a single case where facts like this have been ignored. Not a single precedent have they raised. Nationwide, state courts, murder cases, 50 states, federal, where there's been this kind of demonstration that we were silent when we shouldn't be, but she was acquitted.
Okay, so then you get a feel for it, right? Feel for what a very long. Martin Weinberg talked for a very long time, but Karen Reed before this had prepared and even showed up herself at one of these rallies before this hearing. So we're going back in time. Let's take a look, shall we?
And the real people.
Well, sorry, guys.
Well, Sean, about a dozen people lined the Rotary here behind me in West Roxbury, and we know Karen Reed visited at least one of these gatherings to spend time with her supporters. You can see Reed standing right in the center of this photo, surrounded by supporters in Dighton and West Roxbury. Many
with her dad, and then there's more kids in that photo. Stop bringing your kids to these
holding
events.
signs say they want justice for the woman accused of hitting her Boston police officer boyfriend John O'Keefe with an SUV and leaving him to die in a snowstorm more than 2 years ago. A mistrial was declared in Reed's case earlier this summer after jurors say they were deeply divided and unable to reach a decision. The most serious charge Reed's facing is second-degree murder. Her supporters say she was framed as part of a police cover-up.
Karen needs justice. John O'Keefe needs justice, and he won't get it until Karen is free.
Right. Free the accused murderer, and the only person, all roads lead to Karen Reed. John O'Keefe's DNA in her taillight casing. No time for anybody to plant any of her taillight piecings on the lawn. Karen Reed's own words. told to multiple people. Everybody's lying. These people believe everybody's lying but Karen Reed. They'll believe one person's word. No one backs up this story. There's not that there was some kind of police corruption cover-up in this. There was not one witness saying, oh yeah, I saw so-and-so put the taillight pieces down. Oh yeah.
And the real people behind this are uncovered.
Prosecutors say they will retry Karen Reed's case, which is set for January. Her supporters say they do plan to attend. Now,
right. This is why it's so important for the O'Keefe family to start giving interviews as a family. Because Paul O'Keefe is powerful on his own, but as a family, it just has a certain power that you just can't take away. And if they can stand it, that's the problem. They're at a disadvantage because it costs something emotionally that they may not be able to afford to spend that often. And that's always the advantage the other side has. Karen Reed can do a zillion interviews, and her supporters can do a zillion interviews because it's not emotionally exhausting in the same way when you've lost someone, when you've had your loved one murdered. So let me get into what I want to talk about, Jen McCabe's lawyer. So I think that's a good segue. And finally, I think I'm going to talk also a little bit about the use of restraining orders to silence the other side, from the Free Karen readers to silence certainly one of the most powerful voices, Kate Peter, in this, by Aidan Carney. And it's just using a restraining order. Apparently he's afraid of a woman. But before I get into that, I want to talk about Jennifer McCabe and her lawyer. And this was brought to my attention by Innocence Fraud Watch, their blog. The link is in the description of this video. And I'm just going to share. Let me just scroll on up to the top. Up to their blog, Innocence Fraud Watch, Killer Karen Reed retrial. Why did lawyer Kevin Reddington praise Aidan Turtleboy Carney on his rolling rally witness intimidation stunt, which targeted his client, Jennifer McCabe? So if you don't remember, they had these kind of like rolling rally, like car rallies that would stop by the witnesses in this case. On the 25th April 2023, the Sun Chronicle, reported on the 25th of April 2023 that Kevin Reddington was representing Jennifer McCabe, a witness who was targeted and duped by killer Karen Reed. Now, I bring this up not to criticize Jennifer McCabe, but to ask the question, is she getting the kind of representation that she deserves? Because Kevin Reddington, in my view, seems like an innocence fraud lawyer. And you'll see why. Hold on. hold your horses. A few hours after Reed had reversed into Boston police officer John O'Keefe and left him to die in the freezing cold, Kevin Reddington was quoted by the media as stating, "My client, Jennifer McCabe, has been vilified in pleadings. They are spinning it. It's going nowhere. The whole scenario is baseless. This rabbit hole the defense is trying to go down will sputter." Well, it certainly didn't sputter. It exploded as It's like a virus, these innocence fraud cases are, and they just infect any kind of, and destroy any kind of sense of fairness or justice we have in our society. On the same day, April 25th, 2023, Aidan Carney published a blog headed Canton Cover Up, Part 11. Jennifer McCabe's attorney, Kevin Reddington, leaves threatening, possibly drunken comment on Turtle Boy's Facebook page, vowing to dance with me in court. So Kevin Reddington left a comment or a communication for Aidan Carney saying, "Hey, turd boy, 2 consecutive acquittals on first-degree murder and 3 essays, my words, not his, in the past year. I'm a loser. No, my friend, you are. You are a low-level sensationalist with a blog. You're writing this because it's the first time you've had any real action. Your wild hallucinatory accusations against innocent people will land you in court, and your blowhard comments about never losing will go down. You are a reckless person, but I'm sure you've heard that before. We shall dance, my friend. You don't want to dance with me, trust me." Aidan Carney did an impromptu live, which in part he headed calling Kevin Reddington. An extract can be played here. And I'll just play, let me just play some of this.
This new incredible fire torch lighter will burn through literally anything. It will give you fire, no matter what.
Best and worst dinner for your
Oh, these Rumble
sweet
things
potato.
have so
Trying
many
to find
ads.
the purple sweet potato. They're the highest level of.
But for now, what I found interesting is after I wrote about it, he showed up on my Facebook page, on our Facebook page last night. And he said, he called me turd boy, which I'll read this to you if you guys haven't seen this already. It said, "Yeah, turd boy." So right away, or turd boy. It's like what trolls call me on the internet.
I'm just skipping for language.
What kind of old man is up that late? Either way, he posts on my page, "Yeah, turd boy. 2 consecutive acquittals on first-degree murders and 3 rapes in the past year." So he's immediately, first thing he does is brag about how, thanks to his fine work, 2 murderers and 3 rapists are out on the street. So thank you for your contribution to society, Kevin Reddington. I appreciate that. Then he says, "I'm," and it looks like he hit the enter button because it's a new sentence. It's like a new, like the sentence ends, and then it says "I'm," and then the next letter is capital. So that means whatever device he's using is recognizing that as a new sentence. So he says, "I'm a loser. No, my friend, you are." 3 spaces. "You are a low-level sensationalist with the blog." That's an interesting word. I believe that is what Chief Diversity called me from the Canton Police Department. Sensationalist is reporting, whatever. Then 3 laughing emojis. Again, this is guys like 80, maybe, I don't know, late 70s, using emojis at midnight and calling me turd boy. He says, "You're," spelled "you're" wrong, "writing this because it's," no apostrophe, "the first time you have any real action." So this is the first, you're losing court very often, taking me to deformation court or something. He says, "You are."
So he's reading it for maximum
I'm going to
effect.
over it up, see how he's doing today. And so if anybody has his, I have one phone number here I see on his website, Kevin Reddington Esquire. I'm going to call that. But I don't know if this is, we'll see what happens when I call this. I'm just curious what he means.
This is Kevin Reddington. I missed your call. Leave a message. Thank you.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hello, Mr. Reddington. This is Turd Boy. I believe you call me Turd Boy. My real name is Eden Carney, but I'm calling about some recent comments that you made on my business Facebook page last night at about 12:15 a.m. You called me a loser. You said I'm a low-life sensationalist blog. You said that I had no action prior to this and that I will end up in court with you where you and I will engage in some sort of dance, perhaps even a waltz. I don't know. But I'm wondering what you meant by that. It sounds threatening because you said you don't want to dance with me. That implies that you're going to use your legal resources and acumen to hurt me in some sort of way, because you also said that my undefeated streak will be going down. So I'd like to hear more about that. Is this as legitimate as your polygraph that you allegedly administered to your own client, who is completely not guilty but voluntarily took a polygraph anyway? So if you could just
Okay. I don't know if he's talking about Jennifer McCabe there or someone else. Watch and listen to Aidan Carney and Richie Keogh. They're traveling. This is when they were traveling to. So Richard Keogh, if you don't know, is Microdots. They're traveling to the rolling witness intimidation party, I'd call it. Later on the same day, Kevin Reddington contacted Aidan Carney via Facebook and said, "You had a great rolling rally. Off the record, you do a great job. Much respect." So he's slapping Aidan on the back for this intimidating his client. So what's going on here? How much help is he giving Jennifer McCabe? And what kind of advice is he giving her if this is the way he conducts himself? I wouldn't want to take advice from this guy. I think the best way to deal with Aidan Carney is to not engage with him at all. You do a great job. Much respect. I wish you would help me with the Lindsay Clancy case. Looks like, so there's the actual thing. You do a great job. Much respect. You create Karen's innocence. No one else created and showed. Well, and Aidan Carney writes back, "Well, thank you, but I think her attorneys have done a great job too." Agreed, says Mr. Reddington. "I know Dave Yannetti well. Great guy, an attorney, but make no mistake, you have created this more than reasonable doubt. You are an incredible investigative reporter. No kissing your butt, LOL. You are amazing. I think we got off on the wrong foot, as they say. I have come to amaze at your skills as an investigative reporter and agree you do not get the credit you deserve, which I think will change soon. I wish you would help me with Lindsay Clancy case." So he's looking for Aidan to help him start an innocence fraud campaign for another guilty person. I mean, Kevin, I wrote possibly about the Lindsay Clancy case. It was the hardest story I ever had to write. Patrick Clancy is the strongest person I've ever seen, followed by Karen Reed, but thank you. So anyone in Canton want to take a couple pictures? So in September 2023, Aidan Carney, using one of his aliases, Clarence Woods Emerson, posted to Facebook, "Anyone in Canton want to take a couple pictures for me? DM me, please." And then 27 minutes later, it goes, "Update, all set." Later that same day, Aidan Carney posted the following photograph. Jen McCabe is being grilled about this picture, which was first reported by Turtle Boy on December 25th. It shows her car at the Proctor house for a social visit 1 month after the DA insisted there was no personal relationship between Proctor and the McAlberts. He also stated during a YouTube video the next day, "We ran the plates." In reality, this was done by corrupt former civilian Avon police dispatcher Janelle Webb. Tap on the button more to read about Janelle Webb's behavior helping Aidan Carney and illegally running plates for him. I believe that's illegal. On the, excuse me if I'm wrong on that, but on the 16th of November, Aidan Carney published a blog headed Canton Cover-Up, Part 217. Kevin Reddington says, SJC giving Karen Reed access to his client's cell phone record is a win for Jen McCabe and Brian Albert. So here he is answering Aidan Carney, any idea about why this car was parked there? In June, Kevin Reddington was representing self-confessed psychopathic killer Ingolf Harry Turek. Excerpts from the May 18th, 2020 news story by Mary Marcos. A prominent Massachusetts surgeon told investigators he strangled his wife after a fight at their home and then dumped her body in a nearby pond. He was arrested and charged with murder. These are the kind of people he represents. So he thinks it's good that, he thinks it's going to help her that her devices were seized. And in August of 2024, he has recently requested communication record devices used by State Trooper Michael Proctor, John Fanning, and Yuri Bikenik in relation to the psychopathic killer Ingolf Turek. So another Norfolk murder case has been impacted by Karen Reed. So basically, he's using the same techniques of Karen Reed's innocence fraud campaign because he wants his own innocence fraud campaigns for his own clients. Used in the trial. He wants Aidan Carney to do a pre-trial innocence fraud campaign for him in the Clancy case. And here he's using the techniques that were done in trial. So the defense techniques, I can't call that an innocence fraud campaign since that was literally part of a defense. But it's just to just try to get as many cell phone information as you can and say that one case is a case of corruption, meaning if Proctor investigated the last case and he wrote some mean texts, then that means there's corruption. So that'll give you an idea. And there's the actual. So is she getting good advice? Why is she being represented by an innocence fraud lawyer? That's what I want to ask. I don't think my advice would be to get a different lawyer to represent your own interests, not his own interests. And I don't think it did Jen McCabe any favors to have her lawyer communicating with someone who's actively, I believe, in my opinion, harassing her. So finally, let me take a quick break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about Aidan Carney. So much to talk about. It's been a minute since I talked about this case. Aidan Carney and Kate Peter. Why? Kate Peter must be silenced. Because I'll explain when we get back from the break. Don't go anywhere. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Okay, here we go. So I played this a while ago, but I think it deserves another another play. So anybody remember this video from the last Karen Reed? This is where Aiden Carney walks right up to Kate Peter and insists a cop escort him, make her move and leave the area because he's in fear for his life.
I feel unsafe really just walking by here at all. I have a right to go walk whatever way I want to walk, though.
She has the right to be here.
No, not if I have an order on her. Does it matter if she's here first? Does that matter?
Yes, she has the right to be here also. So
not if I'm here. Yeah, he doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter who's here first according to an order. You know that, right?
You could cross there and avoid her.
I just crossed. I came from here.
Yeah, but you're intentionally trying to walk near her.
What do you mean intentionally? This is the fastest way.
No, you can walk there. It's a square.
But first of all, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to get something to drink down there because I'm running low on water. She can't be here. I mean, this is an order. She can? You're sure of that?
You're trying to initiate contact with her.
All right. So, I mean, just so we're clear, she's violating the order right now by being within 10 yards of me.
No.
And you're not telling her to leave.
No.
If I want to stand here, really? Okay. All right. Thank you. Sergeant, so I spoke with Officer Cat.
So then he goes up. So that's not enough. And then he's like, I spoke to the other officer and he said she should move. This is like ridiculous. Ridiculous. Wait till you read the police report on this.
Patty, who confirmed with me that if I have a right to walk in a straight line and she needs to move. So can you ask her to move for me so I can walk by safely?
This is so much of what Free Karen Reed is about. I control, I create reality. I reverse victim and offender. It's creating a whole new reality where Aiden Carney is really in fear for his life in front of Kate Peter. So much so that he has to walk right up to her. It's not about punishing her so she can't show up, so that she can't lead the blue side of the movement because she's the strongest voice. It's not that at all. Not that at all. It's really that this 5'4" man is seriously afraid of Kate Peter. He's afraid of her power and her voice. Because when she talks, people listen.
Clear.
Oh, that's good. Come on.
Well, I want her to physically move.
No.
No? Okay. Then
Does anybody remember those E.F. Hutton ads? When we and E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. It's Kate Peter.
I will fit. No, that's fine. You're not going to protect. You're not going to do your job. That's
right. So he was desperately upset by that, right? So that actually extended by a judge, which was like Kate Peter had a court-appointed lawyer. Her regular lawyer had the virus, and it got extended because of that. He got the extended, so she has to stay even further away from him. He actually won in court based on that incident. And why this police report wasn't brought into it, I don't know if it was available then or what. I'd love to hear what happened at that, behind the scenes at that hearing, because the judge was like, Kate Peter seemed not on top of things, just like a little, like not having a great day. And Aiden Carney was like, here's what I want, very clear. And the judge was like, the man says he knows what he wants. I'll give him what he wants. It's like, it felt so misogynistic and crazy. Like, oh, he's got something, a clear action that I can do. All right. That's not, if you don't understand the ramifications is apparently the side that's so interested in free speech wants to silence free speech. That's entirely what it's about. I mean, maybe you could throw in some personal grudges and revenge in there, but that about covers it. So on July 22nd, I was working in an assignment post high at Pearl Old River for a post-trial hearing for the Karen Reed case at Norfolk County Superior Court. So this is the hearing before Friday's hearing. So this is the last hearing. Not the last hearing, the hearing before the last hearing. So the last hearing was yesterday. This is the hearing before that. Okay. When I arrived on scene, I was informed of an earlier interaction between Aidan Carney and Catherine Peter. Currently, Carney has an active harassment prevention order against Peter, in which the parties must stay at least 10 yards apart. Now it's 100 yards, thanks to that last court action. Ridiculous. Peter and an unidentified woman were standing on the sidewalk near the crosswalk at 644 High Street. I asked Peter what had occurred today prior to my arrival. Peter stated she was standing in front of Superior Court with the group of John O'Keefe supporters. When Carney showed up and joined his group of Karen Reed supporters who were in front of the courthouse, Peter stated that they were told by a state trooper that she could stand the next block down away from Carney. Peter went on to say that she was concerned about Carney and his behavior. Peter stated that she is worried Carney will approach her. Crazily, that happened. Crazily. Is she a psychic? Is she a psychic? and claim she violated the order. Exactly what happened. I instructed Peter she should stay where she was for the remainder of today's hearing and avoid Carney as much as possible. I asked Peter how far away from Carney she had to stay. Peter said she had to stay 10 yards away. Now it's 100 yards. Peter went on to say that Carney has been harassing her, and there was another incident in Denham recently with the two of them. I told Peter I hadn't heard about that incident, and again told her that she should be okay standing where she is for the day. Peter again said she was concerned about Carney walking around and approaching her today. Short time later, I observed Carney walking away from his group in front of the Norfolk Superior Court and started to walk down High Street in the direction of Peter. It's like a magnet. He's so scared he just can't stay away. As Carney approached, I could see he was holding the phone out, videoing. Always got to get it on video, just like Karen Reed, and continued to video Peter as he crossed High Street towards Old River Place. No words were exchanged between the parties. Carney did not seem concerned about Peter standing there and did not approach me, voicing any safety concerns he had. After Carney crossed the street, Peter did state how her concern to me about Carney's behavior. I told Peter I'd seen him. Several minutes later, Carney returned again, videoed Peter as he crossed the street again. Carney did not approach me about any safety concerns he had for himself. It did appear that he was trying to bait Peter into saying something to him. See, that's how it works. That's why you don't have any contact with a psychopath, as he's been described by the people that know him, like Carney. Gotta go no contact. Trying to bait Peter into saying something to him, violating the order. Several minutes later, I observed Carney again walk away from his group down High Street in the direction of Peter. Carney was again videoing Peter as he walked by her and approached and appeared to be looking to try to antagonize her into violating the order. No words were exchanged between the parties. For the third time, Carney did not approach me or voice any concerns he had about his safety. As Carney crossed the street, I continued to watch him walk down Old River Place, taking a pointless walk to nowhere. That should be the the title of Aidan Carney's biography, A Pointless Walk to Nowhere, along the side of Dedham District Court and immediately turning around and walk back up Old River Place. Carney then crossed the street and approached me saying he had an order against Peter. Carney went on to say he would be walking by this area a lot and he felt unsafe. After a quick back and forth with Carney, he left the area and walked towards Denham Square. I was notified by Sergeant Freely that Carney was in the station filling a report about the incident that just occurred. Several minutes after receiving the phone call, Carney was back, stating that an officer at the station said that Peter had to move. I again had a quick conversation with Carney and offered to escort him. We just watched it on video to his group and help him down High Street. If he felt unsafe, Carney denied my assistance and walked across High Street towards the group of Karen Reid supporters. It should be noted at no time did Peter leave the area she was standing in or direct any acts towards Carney intended to cause fear, abuse, harassment, or damage Carney in any way. Peter did not approach Carney, and the only time the 10 yards may have been broken was when Carney approached Peter. It's like, during this during this incident, at no time did Carney display any typical characteristics of someone who was in fear for their safety. There was no shakiness in his voice. To reiterate this again, when he spoke to me, he didn't try to avoid Peter. In fact, both parties acted in ways that if the roles would be reversed. Peter avoided Carney and voiced her concern about his behavior to law enforcement, and Carney appeared to try to intimidate, harass, and antagonize Peter. During the incident, Carney appeared to be attempting to weaponize the protection order process by antagonizing Peter into a violation. And that's what Karen Reid does, weaponize the discovery process, weaponize, get everybody's phones and try to find something embarrassing about it, weaponize the legal process. Peter asked for today's incident to be put on record, and she was going to want a copy of the police report for her attorney. I told Peter I would document today's incident, and she could request a copy through the department's record request process. I also suggested to Peter she should leave the area before the rest of the group to avoid any contact with Carney or any other Reid supporters. At the conclusion of the hearing, Peter and her friend did leave the area early, but did return for several minutes and left without any further interaction with Carney. At this time, no charges were filed against Peter. So just to give you an idea of how they work and what this is really all about, it's about shut down the biggest threat. And the biggest threat in the non-supporter movement is Kate Peter. Shut her down. So hopefully this will be resolved somehow in some kind of fair way. But Aidan Carney, of course, has his trial coming up, and we'll be following it on this channel. 65 CJ5. If Karen was fat, black, or gay, Turtle Boy wouldn't even be involved in this. Yeah, that's an interesting discussion to have. How much her looks, her social class has in this. Certainly Amanda Knox, as another one, became a similar celebrity. Equally photogenic and equally as off key with their reactions and just totally off key. I mean, when Karen Reid's asked if she did that, why there was a conspiracy against her, she says, because John O'Keefe's dead. Like, that makes any sense? and that's any reason why there would be a conspiracy against her. Sure, they have to cover it up, but why you? Why you, Karen? Which is a question that still hasn't been answered. Why Karen? Why does everyone hate Karen Reed? Why does everyone want to lie under oath about Karen Reed? That's food for thought. Thanks so much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. with another episode. Have a great night, everybody.